Okay, we seem to be having some technical difficulties here, for which I can only apologize. Perhaps you can see me, perhaps you can hear me, perhaps neither of those things is true, and you can't hear or see me. I'm starting to feel like I'm losing my mind. Only joking. Apologies to anybody trying to tune in, if there is anybody trying to tune in, because we are experiencing some technical difficulties. We hope these will be resolved in the next few minutes. Please bear with us.
Welcome to Place and Experience. Indulge your senses with immersive game titles. Boost the excitement with our engaging promotional tools and generous network promotions. Be in control with XI Viewport Management Tool and experience seamless gameplay powered by X Platform. Enjoy Place and Experience as our partners do in over 20 regulated markets. And get ready to go big. Big play is on. Placent.
Well, hello there, everybody, and apologies for this slightly late, slightly delayed episode of your weekly news live. Of course, we are bringing you the biggest stories of the week live and direct, as always. And I'm very sorry that we're 5 or 10 minutes behind. We had some unforeseen technical difficulties, but we're back in business. And Nico, I couldn't be happier than to be joined by your sweet self. It's lovely to see you once again. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Lovely seeing you again. And seems like, the friendship of the both of us have, like a UK guy being a friend with a German guy, has been the blueprint of Thomas Tuchel now becoming the manager of the Three Lions. So shout out once again. And a German manager takes over English pride of English football. How does this sound?
Well, I think we can teach our great nations a thing or two, Nico, about how to bridge the gap and make a cross-European friendship. And aren't we all the stronger for it? So there you go. I'm not convinced that anybody is particularly upset about Thomas Tuchel. I think Gareth Southgate did okay. I think the record speaks for itself, even though he didn't win anything. Obviously, he got us to a few finals and a bit of semi-finals and this. Everybody hated him by the end. So now, Thomas Tuchel, now if he doesn't do well, the English are going to have 2 reasons to hate him. So I think they're playing it safe in some sense. If it doesn't work out, they can just say, well, he was German, so what did you expect? Maybe he was a saboteur, a double agent from the inside. Who knows?
You never know. Fun fact is, he's actually a neighbor of mine. So whenever he just needs a shoulder to cry on, maybe, just maybe, and don't mark my words, we will just put him on the pod as well.
Now that would be an exclusive scoop, Nico. Unfortunately for our viewers, we haven't got Thomas Tuchel today. What we have got, as always, is the biggest stories, and we've got another little extra box. We've got the biggest stories from the gambling sector this week. And as I'm sure you're aware, the biggest story has been, I think, this report from The Guardian that came out on Friday that the UK is thinking about hiking its gambling taxes. But, Nico, we'll get to that in just a few minutes, because first, of course, it just wouldn't be weekly news without the world-famous trademark 10 in 5. Are you ready for an extra quick 10 in 5 today? Because we're already behind.
Yeah, I am. So, Entain hails online recovery as EBITDA target is upgraded to £1 billion, reflecting a stronger than expecting Q3 performance and increased confidence for the remainder of the year. Leadership upgraded the full year forecast as group EBITDA is projected to stand at the top of the 1.04 to 1.09 guidance range. Gavin Isaac, he's in charge, issued his first statement as Group CEO, reading as followed. My first weeks as CEO of Entain have reaffirmed my view that it is very good business operating in a highly attractive global industry. Seems like the ship has turned around. Kindred revenue on track ahead of combined FDJ Q3 report. As we all know, Kindred has been acquired by French FDJ. It's running the local lottery in France. Kindred said B2C and B2B revenue reached £294.5 million, with gross winnings revenue at £283.1 million. And we also have a statement here as well. Kindred's estimated revenue and share of locally regulated revenue for the third quarter 2024 are in line with expectations, and the group remains on track towards a communicated full-year EBITDA guidance. Then Fnatic, they have been sued by a couple of companies and groups. They signed a deal with the MLPA, so it's the Major League Baseball Player Association, amid lawsuits. Fnatic's betting and gaming has signed a non-exclusive licensing deal with the Major League Baseball Player Association, MLPA. The deal, first reported by Sports Business Journal, will make Fnatic's sports betting platform the first officially licensed sportsbook of MLB players. Then gave some additional information about the casino project in Lower Manhattan, in Manhattan. Latest New York casino drama as residents push back in Coney Island. As the downstate New York casino licensing competition grinds slowly forward, a proposal for a $3 billion development in Coney Island has ignited fierce debate. At a town hall meeting led by local activist Ronald Stewart this week, opponents voiced fears that the casino would harm rather than help the area. Still staying in the US, as presidential politics could alter gambling expansion landscape in multiple states, including Texas. Guess what? Should Donald Trump become president, there are at least two states, Arkansas and Texas, that could be most affected when it comes to gambling expansion. And if Kamala Harris wins the election, there are another two states in which change could moderately affect the current gambling climate. One of the states is anticipated as California, but we don't see anything happening in California in the near future, but keep your fingers crossed. Then, Genting subsidiary is sued for $600 million by a Bahamas casino partner. A Miami-based real estate developer has filed a $600 million lawsuit against Genting Americas, alleging massive fraud related to a resort development in the Bahamas. So RRV Bahamas Limited, founded by Cuban immigrant Jerry Capo, claimed Genting Americas used fraudulent accounting practices to settle a joint venture with nearly $1 billion in illegitimate debt, effectively wiping out RRV's investment. The lawsuit claims BBE's 2022 audited financial reports show total liabilities of nearly $885 million, an amount REV said is impossible for a small island resort averaging just $22 million in annual revenue. So this obviously happens if a joint venture doesn't play out as anticipated, but Keep on reading the Next IO's news pages. Great article by Zach for additional information as well. Hopping over to Europe, as Dutch industry wants black market revenue from high-value players is rising. According to the monitoring report of the Netherlands Gambling Authority, KSA, 95% of players were using legal gambling providers in H1 2024, which is an increase of 5% of H1 2023, which resulted in 90%. Interestingly, and however, the share of GGR going to legal providers over the same period declined slightly from just 88% in 2023 to 87% in 2024. As a result, the Dutch gambling revenue captured by illegal operators rose from 12 to 13%. And be assured, unofficial numbers will be even higher as well. Then, French gambling regulator launches campaign against illegal online casinos. As part of the regulator's strategic plan for 2024-2026, the campaign is intended to advise the public that online casinos are illegal in France. The campaign will feature ads in apps, websites, and social platforms like Twitch, Snapchat, and TikTok, directing people to a dedicated site that outlines why online casinos are banned and how to identify them. Be assured, sports betting, poker is allowed in France, but not online casino. Ireland's gambling regulation bill reaches final stages. Unlike the UK, which has had a gambling regulator for almost 20 years, Ireland has so far lacked a central authority to oversee the industry, and the new bill seeks to change that by establishing the Gambling Regulatory Authority of Ireland, which reads as GRAY. Then, last but not least, GGL wins a judicial support over Swiss payment blockade. The German administrative court in the city of Halle has ruled in favor of the joint gambling authority of the Länder, shortly GGL, and the issued blocking order of a Swiss payment provider. Roland Bentner, GGL board member and running CEO, commented on the court's decision. This further success in the use of payment blocking shows that country borders do not constitute an obstacle to the enforcement of gambling law. Companies that do not comply with the applicable laws must expect consequences. And this has been my 10 and 5.
Absolutely amazing work, Nico. Sit back now, relax, and take a deep breath, because I'm about to regale you with stories of your favorite topic in the world. We all love talking about tax. Isn't it the most exciting thing? So, especially here in the UK this week, let me assure you that everybody in the gambling sector in the UK this week has been talking about tax. And Nico, I'm going to explain briefly why, because of this report that came out in The Guardian. And then we're going to take a look at some of the big key responses we've heard from the industry. It's not often you seem to get everyone in our industry agreeing on something and coming together with one voice. But this week, that has happened. Why? Well, because they think the UK government might raise their taxes. And so they have come out in force to say, no, not us. We haven't got any money. Right. So on Friday, there was a report in The Guardian suggesting that the UK government is considering raising up to an extra £3 billion annually by increasing gambling duties. The report suggested that Treasury officials are evaluating recommendations from two prominent think tanks. Wouldn't you like to work for a think tank, Nico? Just sit around thinking about things all day and get paid for that. That would be just fabulous, wouldn't it? So apparently there's two prominent think tanks that have backing from one of Labour's top donors. Of course, Labour is our new party of government here in the UK. One of the proposals was put forth by the Institute for Public Policy Research and calls for significant tax increases on the sector, including, this is the key, a doubling of the general betting duty from 15% to 30%. That applies on betting revenue across the board. And raising the remote gaming duty on online operators specifically from 21% to 50%. So we're talking about New York levels of operator taxation here. So the plan focuses on increasing taxes on what it deems to be higher harm products, things like online casino games, compared to lower harm activities like the National Lottery and bingo. So it's applying what they refer to as the polluter pays principle to discourage more harmful gambling products. So you put the higher taxes on the products that are considered most harmful and leave lower taxes on the ones that are considered less harmful. According to the original report, sources within the Treasury said that officials are receptive to the idea, despite opposition from gambling industry lobbyists. And a Guardian source familiar with the discussions said, "It's definitely on the map. There's no obvious pushback to it." Well, maybe there was no obvious pushback within the Treasury. If they have an opportunity to really easily make £3 billion more a year, they will try and do that in order to cover the £22 billion shortfall in public finances, which has been uncovered by Chancellor Rachel Reeves. Well, let's talk about pushback, because if you listen to anybody who actually works in the industry, Nico, you will know that the pushback has been very, very vocal, very loud, and very, what's the word I'm looking for? Without a doubt, certain. Everybody in the industry is saying the same thing. So, God, I wish I could think of that word. Maybe I'll join a think tank and then I'll be able to think of it next week. Okay, so the Betting and Gaming Council, first and foremost, this is our trade association that represents something like 90% of the UK online gambling market. They pushed back against the proposal, of course, and said it is based on, and I quote, fantasy economics. So the CEO of the BGC, Grania Hurst, told us at Next.io, the current speculation around taxes is being driven by anti-gambling campaigners. It's based on fantasy economics and simply not credible. I want to be very clear with governments. Any further tax rises will not only slam the brakes on growth for our sector, but it will threaten jobs and completely derail horse racing. The BGC also said that countries with, Nico, draconian regulations and disproportionate tax regimes have experienced a surge in illegal black market gambling. And we only have to look at Germany's market to see just how much that can happen if the taxes and the restrictions are all set too high. We have been clear, Grania said. Balanced regulations and a proportionate tax regime are the best defences against the rise of the black market, which pays zero tax and does nothing to promote safer gambling. So we all remember as well, there was a report the other day that said something, I think it was £4.5 billion a year staked by or lost by British players on unlicensed websites. So it's not to be sniffed at. And so, yeah, there's a danger here, according to the BGC, that number's just going to keep growing. Of course, Nico, this is an argument we hear all the time. So she also pointed out another couple of things. One is that operators in the UK are already dealing with the impact of the Gambling Act review. She said that's costing the sector more than £1 billion already. And really importantly, she said, after so many years of uncertainty, we need stability to deliver sustainable investment, not further changes that threaten to undo the contribution of the sector. So that's basically what the kind of BGC's response was in general. Don't up the taxes. It's gonna go. You're gonna feed the black market. It's going to ruin the experience for customers because the odds are going to be worse. There's going to be no bonus. We're going to get into a bit more detail here because that was the kind of initial response. It's quite general. But we've gathered some responses from a few other people who kind of helped to, I think, illustrate some of the specifics of exactly how this might impact things in the UK. I know Flutter had a statement the other day, Nico. Have you been listening to what they've been saying?
Yeah, so first of all, Flutter CEO Peter Jackson said, setting too high a tax rate reduces competition, weakens the consumer offering, and can lead to a reduction in tax revenue. This is no one's interest. And to give you some additional information and empirical data, first of all, we've seen, so there's a positive correlation between a tighter regulation and an increase in black market transition, which means the tighter regulation becomes, the more attractive black market operations actually become. We've seen this in Denmark, we've seen this in Germany as well, and these are empirical data. And if you just listened to my 10 and 5, we also see this in the Netherlands as well. Why? Channelization rate increases the overall GGR, so the player spendings actually decreases. And just picking up Jackson's statement, we at Flutter support the current implementation of the Gambling Act review, which requires ongoing collaboration on the number of key areas. But the fact that it was complicated by 3 years of delay caused great uncertainty for the UK sports betting and gaming industry. And now consistency around fiscal policy is also paramount, as it allows businesses like ours to invest with more confidence, he said. So, of course, also the stock listed and the big companies, we are speaking about the Flutters and the Bet365 of this world, who are deeply invested into the UK. Of course, they will invest even more if there will be a consistent fiscal policy as well.
Yeah, I think this investment piece is really important, and you know, we've already seen the impacts of changes in the UK, and the UK becoming a less and less attractive market all the time. And you know, Flutter, who made that statement, have already moved their primary public listing to the US now. So London's already kind of playing second fiddle to New York now as a listing location. The industry is sort of super saturated and dominated by a handful of small companies. It's not really the attractive market it once was. And there does seem to be an element of danger here that actually, because we're not talking about small adjustments here in the tax rate, we're talking about massive changes, doubling the betting duty and more than doubling the remote betting duty. I mean, it's just, you know, it would have a massive impact. Speaking of which, here's the reason businesses would no longer be able to invest in the UK. We've got more commentary from Regulus partners, who are always very switched on to these questions. So Regulus said that at the moment, UK operators have what they call a blended tax rate. That's considering everything together, the betting tax, the corporate tax, everything, a blended tax rate of around 23%. The proposals being discussed would give them a blended rate of about 40%. So it's nearly twice as high. So Regulus said, at a blended rate of around 40% tax on Britain's gambling sector, a number of things will happen. First, because Britain taxes GGR rather than net revenue, bonuses would have to be cut, fueling a growing differential between black market offers and licensed products. Channeling will almost certainly reduce. So that's, practically speaking, Nico, it's as simple as that. That's how you drive players to the black market. Stop giving them bonuses on the regulated market and let the unlicensed operators offer them a 300% deposit bonus. Well, where are you going to go? That's up to you. So, you know, it's kind of simple. And then Regulus added, second, profits would be largely or entirely wiped out. UK-related operating margins would need to be higher than 20% to stop the tax increase causing operating losses. So if you think about that operating margin, a bookie's operating margin is a lot lower than 20% usually. So it would have to be, well, again, the price will have to come back on the customer's head. It's going to be, you're going to be paying for it with worse odds, less payouts, all the rest of it. So basically, regulators concluded that anything more than a small tweak to tax rules would be damaging and self-defeating. And I have to say, Nico, it sounds like pretty straightforward stuff. But I think the reason that we had such strong responses to this proposal is because it is, what we've heard in the media is a huge change. We're talking about doubling tax rates and all this. It would have a huge impact if it was to be implemented as suggested in The Guardian. But here we come to the light at the end of the tunnel and the cloud's silver lining, because Alan Bowden, here's somebody else who's absolutely dialed into this sector, absolutely brilliant commentator on pretty much any matter you can think of from Islas and Crycheck Gaming. He said the tax proposals were surprising and unlikely to pass. So on LinkedIn, he said, I've been saying for a long time that a rise in online gambling tax rates feels inevitable. We may see them nudged up a bit, either in this budget or the next, but he thinks that the Guardian article overstated the likelihood of such a large tax increase. So here we go again, quote from Alan. To be clear, the article essentially says someone at a think tank proposed an incredibly high tax level for online casinos and had a meeting with the Treasury where they nodded and said, interesting, we'll consider this. And I think that's probably the most sensible analysis of what this article actually says that I've heard so far. So shout out to Alan, because he's absolutely right. Some people have responded as if it were a government proposal that was passing through Parliament and really becoming a reality. He's saying, hang on a second, it's just the Guardian. It's just the Guardian. Just the Guardian saying this. It doesn't mean it's at anything like a developed stage or an advanced stage. It's just initial discussions. And I think he's probably right. I think we probably will see a tax increase in this during this government. It wouldn't be surprising, Nico. But if we see taxes doubled, I probably would be surprised as well. So there you go. I mean, that's pretty much the best commentary that I've heard on this story all week. Nico, what about you? Is it kind of chime with what you would think about this potential policy?
Yeah. So, and we always need to keep in mind that this the increase in taxation is just the cherry on the cake as soon as it comes to regulation, because with the new regulatory framework in the UK, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, which has still not yet been implemented in full. They are still speaking about like, okay, maximum stake and online casino, etc. So the overall liberal and freedom to actually spend the money wherever you want is decreasing in the UK significantly. And, first of all, the UK has been one of the leading global market. As of now, we just see, especially in the online world, because it just takes you, you use a VPN, you just sign up, you just gain the 300% bonus, whatever. As long as you can deposit money and withdraw money, why should you just be happy as a customer with a lower RTP, so a lower return to player? Because this is actually what the operators do, lowering the return to player, which will significantly decrease your fun to actually play these games. And this is what the customer actually values. Customer just want to experience an easy to play, easy to access, and enjoy their time on the casino, in the sports betting, and wherever they are facing these things. Just as another example, which you can look up as well, as soon as Ontario in Canada came up with a regulation, and the Bet365 customers were forced to actually download a new application, guess what has happened to the overall rating of the application? First of all, it was way slower, and this is what you can read actually in the reviews of the new application. too slow, doesn't work, blah, 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 blah. With the application, which had formerly been overall rating of 4.4 out of 5, now ranked with 1.7. Guess what? This might happen in the UK as well. So, and this will lead to people actually leaving the market. So the safe haven market, where it's player protection and revenues are taxed, to the black market operations. And as said, we've seen this all over the world, and sometimes I just don't understand why, especially, governments don't see these things coming as well.
Yeah, good analysis, Nico. We'll definitely keep an eye on this story. Like I say, it's very rare for everybody in the industry to come together and speak with one voice, but they have absolutely slammed the proposals this week. But of course, that's in their own self-interests. The question we have to answer, Nico, is it also in the interest of the players? And ultimately, that's what really matters when it comes to running a gambling business. You want to care about your customers first. And if you can't do that, well, someone else will offer them a better experience. So you got to be careful. Anyway, that's about all we have to say on this one. Go to next.io and check out all the full commentary on there. We've got different commentators from right across the sector, analysts, affiliates, operators, suppliers. Everybody's having their say. So go to next.io and check that out, because we've got quite a lot of content on this issue. Now, after our delicious tax conversation, which was just such a delight, Nico, I always love talking tax. I think we should move on to some of the biggest M&A stories of the week, which are not huge, not enormous, but they're deals nonetheless that we should look at. But before we do, I think we have a very brief video message from one of our partners that we should share first.
Games, hundreds of studios, dozens of hub market partners, an industry-leading hub wallet, and just one API. Hub 88 is connecting businesses to a world of limitless content where the possibilities are endless. Hub 88.
There you have it, Nico, and thank you to Hub 88 and, of course, to Playson, our long-serving partners who keep us coming back here every single week. Now, we've had a couple of acquisitions this week, Nico. Like I say, not enormous ones, but some pretty significant ones nonetheless. The first one I want to talk about is a DraftKings acquisition, and I know you've been looking into this one this week. Why don't you give us the lowdown?
Yeah, so DraftKings has acquired Dijon System, which is a subsidiary of Mustard System that operates the Mustard Golf pricing business. DraftKings said the deal will allow it to bring golf pricing capabilities in-house, as well as give it the opportunity to offer a differentiated golf product with expanded offerings and coverage. And now the acquisition is the latest in several DraftKings M&A move in the pricing space, following its purchase of Sports IQ Analytics Simplebet earlier this year. And we have a graphics which just shows the latest acquisition of DraftKings as well. There you see. And it's always B2B, so gambling techs, Jackpocket, Golden Nugget Casino, GNOG, Blue Ribbon, Vezin, and SB Tech, which is considerably probably the biggest acquisition of what they had. So they are just lining up and diversifying their tech stack and their B2B offerings as well. Thanks, Lorena, for putting up this graphics. DraftKings Chief Revenue Officer Greg Kamaritis said golf betting continues to gain traction amongst our players, and adding Mustard Systems golf technology and its talented golf team will only sharpen our edge in creating an expansive and dynamic golf product offering. This deal strengthens our ability to innovate in the golf space and provides us with an opportunity to deliver fresh and exciting options for golf fans. DraftKings highlighted the UK-based trading team will bring extensive live betting experience to the company. Live betting is likely to experience significant growth in the US in the coming years. DraftKings also plans to leverage its own technology to strengthen Mustard's golf pricing and operations, as well as optimize its overall performance. The supplier's advanced data models were also highlighted, which DraftKings said will enable it to expand its golf offering and introduce even new bet types. Elsewhere, industry consultant Matthew Trenhale claimed on X that Mustard Systems was previously acting as the market maker for the golf market on Flutter owned Betfair. This, he said, is likely to cease now that DraftKings has acquired the company as well. So they are actually, biting something off the cake, which has formerly belonged to Flutter as well. So competition is continuing. So what is your take on the latest move of DraftKings?
I think it's really interesting, Nico, that this area of the industry, which is sports betting pricing and odds trading, is not a kind of monolithic thing yet. It's kind of encouraging to see that diversity of companies who are out there. Some, you got Mustard Golf, which is just explicitly focused on golf. And if you're, Sport Radar or Genius Sports and you're offering odds on, 100,000 sports events a year or whatever the figures are, I think it's really encouraging that there are still people out there who can dive into their little niche and say, no, we're just looking at golf and we're just going to be golf guys. And that's what we want to do. And we want to offer the broadest range of markets as we possibly can on one sport, which is our passion. For me, I love that because I love passionate people. And I think it's nice to see this kind of differentiating factor. Let's see what DraftKings does with this, because sometimes it can be easy to buy the company and get the best product. What's difficult then, Nico, is actually communicating that to your customers and making sure they understand why, let's say in the future, DraftKings is going to be the number one destination for golf bettors in the US, let's say. Also funny that actually what Matthew Trenhale said, who's like a very respected commentator within the industry, claiming that Mustard Systems was acting as the market maker for golf on Betfair. Well, of course, Flutter also owns FanDuel. The question is, was it the market maker for golf on FanDuel, or was it helping to set those odds? Who knows? But for me, I think it's, it makes sense as well for DraftKings to be leaning into live betting, which obviously in the US, which is a less mature market than over here in Europe, it's a growing proportion of betting is taking place live or in play. But they still have a lot of catching up to do in terms of reaching the levels that we have here in Europe. I think it's a 60-40 or a 70-30 split, but kind of biased in opposite ways. So the US is still mostly pre-match, and now the UK, I believe, is mostly in play. So makes a lot of sense. It's a good place to invest for the future, I think, Nico. But yeah, no details on price or anything like that. We do know, I think, that the as you mentioned, the Mustard Systems team is going to join DraftKings team. So let's see. You might start seeing DraftKings sponsoring more golf events, making their voice a little more heard in the golf segment specifically. Personally, Nico, for me, I'll be brutally honest, I'd rather watch paint dry than watch golf. Most boring, awful sport in the world.
But touching down on your line of argument, first of all, DraftKings only released over there, if I'm not mistaken, so almost 10, 12 years of acquisition actions and activity. They just release the price of a company they bought one time when they bought Jackpocket in February 2024, and the acquisition price was 750 million. Besides this official price, they never released the price tag to whatever they bought, even when they bought SB Tech as well. And also touching down on your actions when it as soon as it comes down to increasing your competitiveness with live betting, odds, etc. And also look this one up as well, as also Kambi signed a multi-year deal of the odds feed agreement with Hard Rock Digital. So either you buy a tech stack or you sign a long-lasting deal, which Kambi obviously did under the new CEO Werner Becher. So as said, the overall competition or the overall competition as soon as it comes to live betting and odds feeds starts with the tech solution, and that's why for sure DraftKings first of all bought SB Tech and now are just diversifying their portfolio and actually getting into the golf betting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's see what the impact of this is. Let's see if there are other sports that are popular enough to actually warrant the acquisition of a technology supplier that's explicitly focused on a single sport. Quite an interesting deal, I think, Nico. Anyway, we've got one more M&A deal to discuss, and then we'll get back to our normal afternoons. I think we've been here. Thanks everyone for bearing with us today through our technical difficulties and through our rambling discussion of all these exciting stories. So we got one more acquisition, which I believe was announced just this morning. iGaming content distributor Openbox has acquired a Gibraltar-based game studio, Boldplay, which many of you will have heard of, for an undisclosed sum. Now, the acquisition was led by Openbox Holdings CEO Richard Hogg and will allow operators across the Openbox gaming platform to access Boldplay's full roster of creative content. So the integration of Boldplay's games into Openbox's proprietary platform is going to begin immediately. Or that is to say, has already begun because the acquisition has taken place. So there will be new content, updates, and according to Openbox, enhanced player experiences expected soon. Now, as part of the acquisition, key members of Boldplay's development team will join Openbox Gaming to ensure continuity in the business. And Nico, just to give you a bit of background in case you're not sure about Openbox. So Openbox was founded in 2021 by a team of experienced industry professionals. It's licensed in the Isle of Man and Malta, and it has a strong focus on serving Asian markets. Now, obviously, that can be extremely profitable, as we know. On the other hand, Boldplay was founded in 2019 and currently holds partnerships with operators across Europe, Latin America, and the US. So seems to me, Nico, there's a kind of symbiosis here. Probably it means Openbox can go into those European, Latin American, and US markets. Also means Boldplay's content can be optimized for and delivered to some of those Asian markets. So there you go. Could be a good thing for both companies. So just to round this one off, Openbox CEO Richard Hogg said, "We have long admired Boldplay's creativity and innovation. Their approach to engaging players with rich content and rewarding mechanics is a perfect fit for our platform." Yes, indeed, symbiosis. By joining forces, we'll leverage each other's strengths to deliver even more exciting and rewarding experiences for players. So, Nico, again, undisclosed sum. Probably not the biggest deal in the world, but for these companies, could well be transformative. So there you go. That's the latest from Boldplay and Openbox. Any commentary from you on this one?
Not on this one specifically, but first of all, shout out to Richard Hawke, who is a well-known player in the industry, and it's always fun seeing him and talking to him, but on a broader scale as well. So we've touched on the overall M&A activities quite often, and this just underlines we did not yet see any kind of refinancing, closing additional funding deals at all, but we see on a weekly basis mergers and acquisition actions. So question still remains, doesn't refinancing work in the overall gaming industry? So are these companies just for the taking and not for the scaling up business? We don't know yet. But funny enough, and then empirical studies actually tell us that either you sell the business or you close the business. As of now, people actually, or founders actually, sell the business, as for whatever reason they don't get any refinancing. This is what I make out of these overall stories.
Yeah, good point, Nico. I think yes, sort of all roads lead to Rome sort of situation. All paths lead to Flutter or DraftKings.
Exactly.
The US. Eventually, we look at Boldplay, and Carolina, of course, is a good friend of ours. Her business was acquired by FanDuel and Flutter. So this kind of thing is happening all the time. Today it was Mustard Systems and then Openbox and Boldplay. But who knows? Maybe DraftKings will buy Openbox next week. For all we know, Nico, in this industry, one thing's for sure: anything can happen.
Exactly. And if you want to follow the latest and greatest, always look up for news stories at next.io, or just sign up and listen to our weekly podcast, where you just don't miss a heartbeat of the latest and greatest of the industry, besides listening to our awesome voices.
That's right, Nico. I couldn't have put it better myself. And while we are appealing to people to get in touch with us and to keep up to date, well, we're both going to be taking a trip to Malta in just a few weeks, and I can't wait to see you there, Nico. But I also can't wait to meet up with some of our adoring Weekly News fans. We know you're out there. So if you spot us around Malta in whatever venue we might be around, let's say, the 10th to the 16th of November, those kinds of dates, we'll be there. Come and say hello. Don't be shy. Come and give us a tap on the back, and we'll buy you a drink to say thanks for watching. Isn't that right, Nico?
100% sure. 100% sure. And maybe, just maybe, I will come up with an interesting story of Thomas Tuchel, and I just spotted him down there going for a walk. So I will just say hello to him from all the Weekly News fans, listeners, and however you just sign up for us and listen to us. And as said, I will just, forward your congratulations and all the awesome hellos to Thomas Tuchel as well.
That's brilliant, Nico. Well, thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you once again to Playson and Hub88, and Nico, most importantly, last but never least. It's always good to see you. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you here same time, same place next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.